Hey, Spooky Squad, welcome back, or welcome in, to Spooky Tales, your go-to for creepy comfort and sleep-friendly scares. Before you doze off, drop a like, subscribe, and tell me, where are you from, and what time is it where you are? Alright, get comfy, hit play, and let's drift into the unknown together. I heard my mom's voice calling me from the basement, but she's been dead for 5 years. It started again last night. The voice I thought I'd never hear again, calling my name from the basement I've kept locked for 5 years. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it, faint at first, like it had traveled through several layers of drywall, whispering up through the floorboards like steam. Daniel. It said in a voice that still lives in the back of my skull. Soft, maternal, impossible. I dropped my toothbrush into the sink. The room suddenly felt smaller. The sound of the faucet muffled like I'd been shoved underwater. I stared at myself in the mirror, the fluorescent light flickering just enough to make my reflection seem hesitant. Daniel. It repeated a little louder now. That was when I knew I wasn't imagining it. You don't forget your mother's voice, even if she's been gone half a decade. That basement has been shut since the week after the funeral. I remember nailing the door closed myself, hammer trembling in my hands like I was sealing something inside. I told people it was because I couldn't stand the sight of her old storage boxes, the smell of mildew that clung to the cold cement floor. But that was a lie. The real reason? 2 nights after she died, I heard her humming down there, and not just any tune, her favorite. The lullaby she used to sing to me when I was a boy, sitting beside my bed, stroking my hair. Hush now, Danny, don't you cry. The night is kind, the stars don't lie. Those were the words, the same ones I heard late at night, rising up from the locked basement door. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? They already thought I was unraveling after her death. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, spent hours just staring out the window. So I kept it to myself, and when the humming came again, I did what any grieving, scared person would do. I pretended it wasn't real. I convinced myself it was grief, echoing in my bones, a sound that didn't exist in the world outside my head. But last night, something changed. She didn't just call my name. She spoke, directly, clearer than ever. Danny, baby, come help me. I can't get out. I felt a chill move through the house like a cold breath. The lights flickered again. My dog, Toby, began growling from the living room. Not barking, just a low, tense rumble, like he smelled something he didn't trust. I walked slowly to the hallway, heart thudding in my chest like footsteps. The basement door stood at the far end, same as always, its edges lined with cobwebs and dust. But now, the door was open, just a crack, but open, and from the dark space beyond it, the sound of footsteps climbing the stairs. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just stood there, frozen in the hallway, staring at that narrow sliver of black between the door and the frame. It was like the darkness was alive, thicker than it should have been, like it was spilling out onto the wooden floor in a slow, creeping crawl. I wanted to call out, to tell myself I was just hearing things again, that maybe I'd left the door cracked years ago, and some shifting in the house had pulled it open further. But that explanation didn't hold, because I know I nailed that door shut. And last night, there were footsteps. Toby stopped growling. He just stared, his head cocked slightly, ears back. Then, without a sound, he turned and walked toward the basement. I whispered his name, but he didn't even glance back. He moved slowly, like he was sleepwalking or being drawn by something he didn't understand. When he reached the door, he sat down, his tail wagging gently, expectantly. Then I heard it again. "Come down, Danny. I need you. I'm cold." It was her voice. Calm, familiar, gentle in the exact way it used to be. She sounded like she had the flu, like she was lying in bed the way she did during the winter months. But what made my blood turn to ice was how she said my name. Not like an echo, not like a memory, like a mother calling to her child from the other room. Like she knew I was standing there, like she could see me. I took a step back. The floor creaked beneath me, and that's when the door slowly creaked open a little wider. Toby stood up and patted down the first stair. "No," I snapped. He stopped, but didn't turn around. "Don't go down there," I said, voice barely above a whisper. My skin was crawling. Every instinct in me was screaming to shut the door, nail it shut again, and burn it if I had to. But another part of me, the part that missed her, that grieved her, wanted to believe. Because what if it really was her? What if she wasn't gone? What if something had been left behind? Something of her soul, her voice, her memory. I looked at the stairwell. It was pitch black. No light at all, not even from the hallway. It was like looking into a throat. I reached for the wall switch and flicked it. Nothing. The bulb didn't turn on. Danny. This time, it wasn't a whisper. It was a plea. Desperate. Like she was in pain. Like she was trapped somewhere cold and dark and needed me. I felt tears in my eyes before I even realized I was crying. God, I missed her. I missed the way she made me tea, the way she tucked the blanket under my feet, the way her hands smelled like rosemary and dish soap. I took a slow breath, and then I stepped forward. My foot touched the first step, and I swear it felt colder than the floor behind me, a sharp, unnatural chill that ran right through my sock and deep into the bone. Toby stayed one step ahead of me, his body tense, tail low, like he was waiting for something to give. The staircase groaned under our weight, each step stretching and creaking in slow, painful protest, as if the house itself didn't want me going down there. I paused halfway, my hand brushing against the splintered wooden banister. That scent again, rosemary, just like her hands. But this time, it was too strong, like it was fresh, like someone had spilled a bottle of it right at the base of the stairs. My heart thudded harder. A part of me wanted to turn around, to grab Toby and run back up, shut the door, and never speak of this again. But I couldn't. Something deeper than fear was pulling me now. It was guilt, grief, and the horrifying possibility that I'd left something unresolved behind when we buried her. At the bottom, the basement stretched out like a cavern. The only light was the dull orange glow from the furnace pilot on the far wall, casting flickering shadows on the concrete. It looked different down here. It smelled different too, less like dust and mold, more like damp earth, like the whole room had sunk deeper into the ground since the last time I'd seen it. Toby didn't bark. He didn't move. He just stared into the far corner of the basement, his ears low, body tight. I followed his gaze, and that's when I saw it. A rocking chair. Not one I remembered bringing down here, but it was there, gently swaying, creaking in a rhythm that didn't match the air in the room. Back and forth, like someone had just stood up from it. And in the dim, flickering light, I saw something lying on its cushion. A scarf. Not just any scarf. Her scarf. The one I'd tucked in with her. The one we buried her with. Faded pink with stitched roses. I stumbled back a step, heart pounding in my chest like a warning bell. Suddenly, the furnace light flickered, then died completely. Pitch black. Danny. Her voice came again. This time, closer. So close I felt the warmth of her breath on my ear. I'm still down here. I couldn't move. Every muscle in my body was locked in place, like the air itself had turned thick, solid, clinging to my skin, holding me there. I couldn't even breathe right. I just stood frozen in the dark. The scent of rosemary so thick now, it felt like I was choking on it. Behind me, Toby let out the faintest whine, low and trembling, and then he bolted. His claws scrambled on the concrete as he dashed back up the stairs, whimpering like a terrified child. And I didn't blame him, but I didn't follow, because in the next breath, I heard her again. Danny, please. I'm scared. It's so cold. Her voice didn't echo like it should have in a basement. It was close, intimate, like it was inside my ears. I turned slowly toward where the chair had been, but I couldn't see anything anymore. The light was gone, swallowed by the dark. Still, I felt the chair. I could almost hear the fabric creak, as if someone had just sat down again. I took a step forward, hand out, trying to find anything familiar to grab onto. A shelf, a switch, anything. Instead, my fingers brushed something soft. It wasn't fabric. It was hair. Long, silky, cold. I yanked my hand back with a sharp breath, stumbling until my back hit the concrete wall. I felt along it desperately, searching for the light chain. I hadn't used it in years, but I remembered where it used to be. Just above the old fuse box, my fingers found the pull string, and I yanked it with all my strength. A single hanging bulb snapped on, and there was nothing. No rocking chair, no scarf, no hair, no figure. Just an empty, silent basement. But in the far corner, where the furnace had been glowing a minute ago, something was wrong. The floor looked wet. A black puddle was spreading outward from the base of the wall. Not water, thicker, like oil, like blood. It shimmered faintly under the bulb's light, reaching toward me with slow tendrils. And the bulb above me popped. Glass shattered. Darkness returned. And in that suffocating silence, her voice came once more, barely a whisper now, but clear enough to chill the marrow in my bones. You left me here, Danny. I couldn't run, even though every nerve in my body screamed to do it, to sprint back up those stairs and never look back. I stayed frozen. My mind kept circling that last whisper, like a moth to flame. You left me here, Danny. It wasn't just guilt anymore. That voice, it had changed. Still Mom's words, still her gentle cadence. But something was wrong beneath it, a rasp, a thickness, like something was speaking through water, or imitating her from behind a wall of skin. And in the dark, The basement felt alive, not in the way a place might have creaks or drafts. This was different. The very walls seemed to breathe. The concrete under my feet felt soft, pulsing faintly like the skin of some buried beast. I reached into my pocket with shaking fingers and pulled out my phone. The flashlight flicked on with a shaky beam, cutting through the dark and landing on something I'll never forget. There was a trail, long, sticky smears of reddish black, dragging along the floor, vanishing into the far wall where no door had ever been. The air smelled metallic, wet, and earthy, like rotting leaves in autumn mixed with raw meat. And then I saw her, or at least something wearing her face. It crouched in the corner where the puddle had been, facing away from me. Her old cardigan hung off its bony frame, but it was soaked, dripping like it had just been pulled from a river. The hair was wrong too. Too long, too thick, hanging in ropes. But the worst part? It was rocking, just like the chair used to. Slow, steady, back and forth. I whispered, "Mom?" before I could stop myself, and the thing turned. Not all the way, just enough for me to see its face in profile. The eyes were pitch black, too large. The skin sagged at the mouth, like something had stretched it from the inside. Its lips parted. "Come closer, sweetheart." It gurgled, "I need to see you." And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't my mother. It never was. I didn't remember turning around. One moment, that thing in the basement was crooning my name with my mother's voice, its dripping fingers twitching in the dark. The next, I was halfway up the stairs, crashing into the wall and nearly dropping my phone. My lungs burned. Every heartbeat echoed like a gunshot in my chest. But even as I scrambled for the top, I didn't hear it chasing me. No footsteps, no words, just that awful silence. I should have felt relief when I slammed the door shut. Should have felt safe when the bolt clicked into place and I collapsed on the kitchen floor, staring at the ceiling, drenched in sweat. But I didn't, not even close, because I could still hear it. Not the voice, the breathing, wet, heavy breaths, seeping up through the floorboards beneath me like rising steam. The kind of breathing that fills a hospital room, that comes from a machine, or something trying too hard to sound human. I backed away from the basement door slowly, trying to quiet my own gasps. Then I saw the trail, the same sticky, reddish smear I'd seen downstairs. Only now, it wasn't leading into the basement. It was leading out, across the kitchen tiles around the corner, disappearing into the hallway that led to the bedroom I used to share with her, back before everything fell apart. I knew I had to leave. I grabbed my keys. I didn't care that it was 3 a.m. I didn't care that I was barefoot, or that the rain had started to come down in thick, sideways sheets outside. I just knew if I stayed in that house another second, I wouldn't make it out alive. But as I reached the front door, I froze. The lights flickered, and from somewhere inside the house, too close, came her voice again, quiet and hollow. "Danny, don't leave me again. You promised you'd never leave me again." And the bedroom door creaked open by itself. I should have run. I knew I should have. But that voice, her voice, had this gravity, like it was stitched into my bones. It didn't sound like the echo from the basement anymore. It was soft now, familiar. It was the way she used to speak to me when I was sick, when I couldn't sleep. A lullaby coated in broken glass. I turned toward the hallway. My feet moved on their own. Every light in the house was off except for the one in her old bedroom. A faint yellow glow spilling into the hallway, flickering like candlelight. The sticky red trail curved directly into it. With each step, the air got heavier. The walls seemed to lean inward. The photos on the wall, ones I hadn't looked at in years, were all wrong. Mom's face was blurry in every single one. Or worse, her smile had vanished. Just pale eyes staring out at me like she'd been replaced and wanted me to notice. I paused at the bedroom door. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob, the light inside humming louder now, like it was alive. And then I saw it. The rocking chair, rocking, back and forth, back and forth. No one in it. But the voice came from right there. "Danny, come sit with me, just like we used to. I made your favorite." I stepped inside. The room was exactly as I remembered it. The floral curtains, the humming fan, the box of old letters I hadn't opened since the funeral. Except now, there was one change. A figure sitting at the far end of the bed, hunched over, arms dangling like wet rope. Its back to me. It was wearing her robe, her hair, but the way it breathed, like something pulling air through lungs it didn't own. I choked on my fear. The thing slowly turned its head, not its body, just the head, and I saw her face. But it wasn't really her. It was like someone had painted her features on a balloon, too stretched, too smooth. The eyes were empty sockets, dripping dark fluid, and the mouth moved independently of the words. "You said you'd never leave me." I stumbled backward, hitting the dresser. My mom's photo, one of the only real ones, fell to the ground and shattered. That's when it screamed, a sound that shattered something inside me. High-pitched, guttural, full of hunger. And the last thing I saw before I really ran, was it lunging off the bed, its mouth opening far too wide, teeth like piano keys stretching into the void. I don't remember how I got out of the house. 1 second, I was staring down that thing wearing my mother's face. The next, I was sprinting through the overgrown yard, barefoot, bleeding, gasping like I was drowning in smoke. My car door was still open. I peeled out of that driveway so fast. I left rubber streaks on the pavement, and I never looked back, not even once. The next morning, I sat in a diner 30 miles away, still in shock, the sleeves of my hoodie soaked in blood and sweat. I must have looked insane. No one asked. The waitress poured my coffee with a nod, and that silence was the only comfort I had. I tried to tell myself it was a breakdown, grief maybe, that old house stirring up trauma, but there's something I can't ignore, something I know I saw before I left that room, before that thing screamed, before it lunged. It whispered something else. "Don't forget to leave the door open. I might need you again." And I did. I left it open. Not just the bedroom door, the basement one too. And I keep thinking about that, because now, at night, even here in my apartment, far away from that cursed town, I swear I hear that same voice again, in the hallway, in the pipes, in my dreams. Last night, I woke up to a knocking sound, not at my door, from inside my closet, and a voice, clear as day, whispered, Come sit with me, Danny. So if you're listening to this and your loved one has passed and you feel that strange pull to go back home, to open that one last door, to answer that one last voice, don't. Some voices aren't meant to be heard. Some doors should never be reopened, and some stories never end. This was another tale from Spooky Tales, where sleep meets fear. Subscribe if you're brave enough to hear what waits in the next dark corner.